Teisha Brewley, known by her fans as Tavi Baddy, was a 31-year-old woman living in Atlanta, Georgia. At that age, she could be said to be living the life that most women dreamed of, but only few achieved. The fancy cars, the fancy clothes, the fancy lifestyle in general. She was riding through life in the fast lane, and she was all about her money. Not until the morning of May 30th, 2023, where Tisha would be gunned down in the streets of Atlanta by unknown people, for a reason we are yet to find out.
It's becoming very scary to live here. It looks like that she was ambushed. That was an Uber driver. She was in an Uber, and the Uber driver was unscathed.
Loved ones gathered to honor the life of a woman gunned down in Buckhead.
Investigators say 31-year-old Teisha Brewley was shot while riding in the backseat of an Uber.
Atlanta police say she was shot while riding in an Uber, and the attack appears to have been targeted. But those who knew Tisha say they will remember the woman who always wanted to make others happy.
Before we begin, we would love to extend our quick and heartfelt condolences to the family and friends of Teisha Brewley and everyone affected by the loss on that fateful day.
I honestly never would have thought that something like this would happen to her. This is not what I saw for her.
Her close friend Megan said she was a wonderful mother to her daughter and an aspiring dance hall artist.
She just always had a song in her head.
So she couldn't believe it when she learned her friend, so full of life, had been killed.
I know what that means when somebody asks you like where you are before they tell you something. So I knew at that point that something had happened to her, something really bad had happened to her.
Also, we would like to take this crime case as a close reminder to all of us still living. This case takes us all the way to Atlanta, Georgia. Like we all know, Atlanta, Georgia is a city known for its important history and economic power. It has played a big role in the civil rights movement and is now home to major companies like Coca-Cola and Delta Airlines. However, there is one fact worth mentioning. Atlanta struggles with a high crime rate, one so intense that in 2022, the city recorded a whopping 170 murders. And when we make emphasis to the fact that the murders were so high that year, doesn't necessarily mean there was a reduction afterwards.
Brings new information from the Atlanta Police Department. APD is releasing its crime report for 2022. And tonight we are comparing the numbers from the past couple of years. So here's what we found here, folks. For the third straight year, homicides are up once again across Atlanta. In 2021, 159 homicides were reported. In 2022, it increased to 170. Now, some other violent crimes, on the other hand, went down in 2021. This includes rape, aggravated assault, and burglary.
As the crime rate from that year onwards boasted an increase. Safety varies a lot depending on the neighborhood, and this was the same environment that shaped the life of everyone who knew Tisha. Teisha Brewley, better known by her online persona, Tavi Baddy, built her career from humble beginnings to become a well-known figure in the world of social media influencing. Born in Guyana, Tisha later moved to the United States, where she began to make a name for herself. Her rise to prominence was not instantaneous. It was the result of years of dedication, creativity, and an innate ability to connect with her audience. In the early days of her career, Tavi Baddy focused on fashion, beauty, and lifestyle content, which she shared across multiple social media platforms. Instagram quickly became her primary outlet, where she showcased her sense of style and vibrant personality. Her content resonated with a diverse audience, attracting thousands of followers who were drawn to her bold fashion choices and the confident, unapologetic way she presented herself. In addition to her work on mainstream social media platforms, Tavi also created an OnlyFans account, where she offered more exclusive content to her fans. This platform provided her with another avenue to monetize her influence and build a closer relationship with her most dedicated followers. Through these various channels, Tavi Baddy not only built a brand, but also cultivated a loyal fan base that supported her throughout her career. While much of her personal life remained private, her career was a clear reflection of her ambition and her desire to make a lasting impact in the digital world. Like many in high-profile roles, Tavi Baddy often found herself under the scrutiny of both followers and peers. The competitive nature of social media influencing, coupled with the pressures of maintaining a certain image, can lead to misunderstandings, rivalries, and even public fallouts. While concrete details of her disputes or rivalries may not be readily available, it's not uncommon for influencers like Tavi Baddy to face friction within their circles. On the morning of May 30th, 2023, the quiet streets in Atlanta quickly turned into a crime scene no one will soon forget.
We are tracking new developments after a deadly shooting in Buckhead. Police say somebody targeted a woman riding in an Uber. The driver was not hurt. Investigators emphasize that this shooting was targeted, and the Fulton County Medical Examiner's Office is now confirming the woman's name is Teisha Brewley.
Teisha Brewley had just finished her shift at a nightclub and was heading home in an Uber. She was riding in a black Cadillac Escalade, probably thinking about getting some rest after a long night. But as her Uber rolled down Lindbergh Drive, close to her home in Buckhead, her life took a brutal turn. Two cars had been tailing the Uber, and when it reached the traffic lights, they seized their moment. They pulled up along the left side of the Escalade and unleashed a torrent of gunfire. In this CCTV footage, you can clearly see gunfire of multiple shots into the car Tisha was in. It was quick, just a matter of about 20 seconds, as one of the neighbors stated in the interview.
Usually when you hear gunshots, it's just like bow, 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 and then that's over with, quick little 2 seconds, but that lasted for about a good 20 seconds. It sounded like about 40 shots.
But the damage was deep. 40 shots fired, all aimed at the back seat where Tisha sat. The drivers sped off, leaving the scene in chaos. The Uber driver, who was unharmed but utterly shaken, did the only thing he could think of. He called 911. His voice was trembling, thick with a foreign accent that made it hard for the dispatcher to understand him. But as a dispatcher, you would expect different people on the other side of the phone.
Atlanta 911, operator 310. What's the address of your emergency?
I don't know. I'm in the road. Somebody shot us. Yeah? Yeah?
Where are you?
I don't know where I am.
Hello, sir. I need to know
I don't know where.
I need to know what street you're on.
I don't know which street I am. Because somebody shot.
The man cried out, desperately trying to convey the horror of what had just happened. But the call didn't go smoothly. The driver, in panic, couldn't immediately tell the operator where he was. The dispatcher's frustration grew, and it was clear she was struggling to get the critical information she needed. It was a tense back and forth, with the driver finally able to give some sense of his location. All the while, Tisha lay dying in the back seat.
I don't know which street I am. Because somebody shot in them.
Someone shot at your car?
No, somebody shot in my car. I'm driver.
Hey, listen, I need to know where you are.
Lindbergh Drive.
Lindbergh Drive and what?
And I can't get. I'm scared to somebody shot me to see it.
Lindbergh and what? Piedmont?
Lindbergh and yeah.
Piedmont?
Somebody
Listen, sir. I want you to listen, okay?
Somebody killed in my car.
The call was recorded, and when it surfaced online, people were outraged. Imagine a scene where a distress call meant to be a lifeline in a moment of crisis was recorded. When this recording found its way online, it ignited a wave of anger and disbelief. The public was not only horrified by the nature of the crime itself, but deeply troubled by the voice on the other end of the operator.
It's becoming very scary to live here.
I don't know what happened, but it's sad. Especially being that somebody got killed. That's real sad.
People listened closely, hoping to hear the reassurance of someone who cared, someone who understood the gravity of the situation. But instead, what they heard, or at least what they perceived, was a tone devoid of empathy, a response that lacked the urgency the moment so desperately needed. As the recording plays, notice how the operator's voice, meant to guide and reassure, instead seems detached.
I don't know. I'm in the road. Somebody shot us.
Okay.
Yeah? Yeah?
Where are you? Listen, sir. I want you to listen, okay?
Somebody killed in my car.
The situation is dire, but the tone you hear doesn't match the urgency of the moment. There's a disconnect, a lack of empathy that this kind of call demands. The words are there, but they fall flat, missing the weight of the tragedy unfolding. Now, imagine the Uber driver, standing still and shaken after his passenger had been shot, making that call. As he hears the operator's indifferent tone, his frustration grows. Each moment that passes makes the driver feel more helpless. The operator's lack of urgency only adds to the driver's anger and sadness, making the situation even worse. By the time the authorities arrived, it was too late. Teisha Brewley, a woman known for her vibrant presence on social media, was gone.
We are tracking new developments after a deadly shooting in Buckhead. Police say somebody targeted a woman riding in an Uber. We now know they are searching for more than one shooter. Atlanta police say they believe the gunman pulled up next to the SUV the woman was riding in. She had ordered an Uber Black. The driver was not hurt. Investigators emphasize that this shooting was targeted.
Nick Taylor lives near the scene. He says he was startled out of his sleep around 4:30 this morning by the sound of gunshots at the intersection of Lindbergh and Adina Drive.
Usually when you hear gunshots, it's just like bow, 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 and then that's over with quick little 2 seconds, but that lasted for about a good 20 seconds. It sounded like about 40 shots. It was 2 guns, may have been 3.
And you're taking another live look here at the scene on Lindbergh Drive. They're continuing to take photographs and gather evidence, including a whole bunch of shell casings from bullets. From what we understand, we asked if there were multiple shooters. The answer was yes, but more than 2. The detectives just aren't sure at the moment. They're, of course, having to process this scene and the other scene to try to piece this all together. That scene nearby at Lenox and Buford Highway.
The bullets had done their work, and the street was littered with evidence of a cold, calculated hit. No one had any answers, no suspects, no clear motive. Just a young woman's life ended far too soon. The story of that night isn't just about the violence that took her life. It's also about the moments of panic, the desperate cries for help, and the feeling of helplessness that lingers when the system meant to protect seems to falter. It's a tale that leaves you with more questions than answers, a reminder of how quickly and senselessly life can be taken away.
This appears to be a targeted incident. As you can see the number of shell casings, there were multiple shooters, but again, we just don't have a whole lot to give out right now.
We've got an update from Deputy Chief Charles Hampton, and he tells us this was a targeted shooting. I want to show you what we're seeing right now. They just loaded the woman's body into the medical examiner's van here on Lindbergh Drive. We've got a number of apartments around here, so a lot of people have been watching outside their apartment windows as all of this has unfolded this morning. Police have been out here for about 4 hours. It was about 4:30 when they first got the call of a person shot, and we were just talking with a man who told us that he came out and the only vehicle he saw at that moment right after the shooting was that Cadillac Escalade.
It turns out she only lives in the next block, so she was less than a block away from home. I think they just caught her at the red light. It looks like that she was ambushed, that was an Uber driver. She was in an Uber, and the Uber driver was unscathed.
You're looking at the scene where Tisha lost her life. It was early morning, and she was just trying to get home after work. Suddenly, her Uber was caught in a storm of gunfire. Because there has not been any public communication on what triggered this heartless act, we can only guess, based on the incident, that this was a planned and brutal attack. Apparently, the shooter was waiting for her to make a step out of her workplace, knew how she gets home, and where it would be quiet enough to commit such a sinister crime. Unfortunately for Tisha, it was close to her home. Her cousin, Curtis Doris, set up this fundraiser to help with burial expenses, and it quickly became a rallying point for the community. People from all over contributed, not just to cover the costs, but as a way to demand justice for Tisha. The response was overwhelming and showed just how many lives she touched.
Good evening, Sean. Rick, we are much closer to that memorial now. If you saw us at 9:30 and 10, we had to stand a good distance back from the sheer volume of people that were out here to pay their respects to Teisha Brewley. Let's take a look. They have balloons out here, flowers, candles form the shape of a heart, and her nickname down here, Tavi. There were a lot of heavy hearts out here tonight. People came together Thursday night, placing candles and balloons near Lindbergh and Adina Drives in Buckhead, right near where 31-year-old Teisha Brewley was shot and killed early Tuesday morning.
In the days following her death, this vigil was held. Friends, family, and supporters came together in an outpouring of grief and love. The sea of pink and white you see here was chosen to symbolize a celebration of Tisha's life, despite the sadness of her passing. It was a powerful moment with speeches, a balloon release, and a collective silence that spoke volumes about how deeply she was loved and how much she'll be missed. It's a heartbreaking moment, and you can feel the weight of the loss, but even in their grief, there's a resolve to find those responsible, to make sure justice is served, and to ensure that Tisha's legacy isn't defined by this tragedy, but by the vibrant life she led.
Clearly a woman who was so very loved. We did check in with Atlanta police tonight. At this point, they have not said there are any updates in this case. They still have not made any arrests.
Day and night, police and detectives continue their relentless search for the person responsible for Tisha's death. Despite their efforts, no suspects have emerged, and the two cars that followed her Uber from the club remain unidentified. The investigation presses on. With justice still out of reach, our hearts go out to her family, and we stand with them in ensuring that Teisha Brewley's memory lives on. This leaves us with a number of questions. What do you think could have led to the death of Tisha? What would have Tisha done to live a day longer? And what about the 911 call? Was it effective to save Tisha, or was it just her day? As always, we encourage you to join the discussion by leaving your opinions in the comments section below. We will continue to keep an eye on things and get you a follow-up video when there is new information available. If you find this video compelling, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe because we're niched to only this type of content. This was in Atlanta, Georgia. See you in the comments section. Until next time, it's bye for now.